Good morning. My name is Douglas Griffin. This is my Sunday school class where we are going through the books of the Bible of the Old Testament. We've done Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. Now we're in the book of Numbers. We're in Numbers chapter 24. We're doing chapters 24 and 25 today. We've been studying the error of Balaam. And just to, wait, let me click over. There we are. Um, just to review, well, you know what? The review is right in the lesson. Well, okay. So the children of Israel, after Noah, and the world kind of started over with Noah and his three sons, there are kind of three sets of people. Noah had three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Um, Ham, his middle son, was the father of all kinds of people. The Iraqis, Iraq came out of them. Nigerians, a lot of Africa, the Egyptians, Persians, different people came out of him. Japheth, that youngest son, they went to Europe, and Shem, actually, a lot of the Middle East and even China came out of Shem. Um, but they all started worshiping other gods, doing their own thing, and God found Abraham and said, I'm going to establish you as a nation, your children, and kind of show the world the difference between worshiping these false gods, because there aren't any other gods, but worshiping these false gods and worshiping the true God that they knew about with Noah, but they've kind of gone their own way. And so he picks Abraham. Abraham has a son Isaac, and Isaac has twin sons, Jacob and Esau. Jacob's name was later changed to Israel. And God had warned Abraham, saying, your son, your descendants, um, are going to be basically captured by another nation, but I'm going to deliver them. And this whole process was going to take 400 years. 400 years from the time that God gave Abraham the prophecy till when Jacob is born to where Israel is born. The children of Israel go into Egypt, they come out, and God's ready to bring them back into this land that he promised them. The land was called Canaan because the youngest son of Ham, again, Ham had a bunch of sons who, again, this is Noah's son, who founded these mighty nations. But his youngest son, Canaan, was cursed. And they were the most God hating of all, Canaan. And we know that from them come like Sodom and Gomorrah and Tyre and Sidon and different civilizations that were really God hating, I'll use that word, use that term. And so Canaan, God gave them 400 years to repent. But their sin just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So by the time the children of Israel come out of Egypt, God says, I'm going to give you this land. I have to kick Canaan out of this land because when people are doing wrong, if there's no consequences for it, then that's bad for everybody. And that's like if you were ever in a class in high school or junior high school, and there's one kid cutting up and cussing and doing crazy stuff. If the teacher doesn't punish that child and says, no, you can't do that, then everybody's going to say, well, heck, if they're getting away with doing all this terrible stuff, we'll do it too. Why are we trying to live right when this person's doing crazy stuff and there's no consequences? So God knows there's got to be consequences for Canaan and how they're living. So God is now bringing the children of Israel, who are about 2 million strong, back into the promised land, back into Canaan, which will eventually be called Israel. On the way back, the tribes of Moab and the Midianites see them, and although they're related to them through Lot, um, and yeah, through Lot and through Abraham's other wife after Sarah died, and through Israel's twin brother Esau. All of these tribes of Edom, Moab, and Midianites, and the Midians are related to them. They're scared of them. They're worried they're going to stay and take their land that's on the other side of the Jordan. But that's not their intention at all. But they're scared. And so this one king of Moab, the Moabites who descended from Abraham's nephew Lot, he calls for a prophet named Balaam. And this is our final lesson on Balaam, the error of Balaam. And he wants them to curse those Israelites, because if you don't, they'll take all our land. And he was just wrong on many levels. In Jude 11, Jude only has one chapter. Jude verse 11 says, "Woe to them, for they have gone in the way of Cain, have run greedily in the error of Balaam for profit, and perished in the rebellion of Korah." And these are three different ways that people who have been in the presence of God, people who understand who God is, have rebelled against God. So I just want to review, because we're going to see the true error of Balaam. Because if you've been listening, and even if you haven't, the past 5 lessons, Balaam seems to kind of go along with what God's asking him to do. So you're thinking, what's the error of Balaam? He's doing what God's saying to do, but we have to examine exactly what was going on. So Balak sends for Balaam. It says, therefore, in this Numbers 22:6, please come at once and curse this people for me. So that's the job. There's no other job. Somebody hires you to be a fry cook. If you make shakes, that's wonderful, but I hired you to be a fry cook. So I'm not going to pay you, because I paid you to be a fry cook, and yet you made shakes and you didn't make the fries. So he says, come and curse this people. That's his job. For they are too mighty for me, and perhaps I should be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed. And again, that's this error of Balak, thinking that it was actually Balaam who's blessing and cursing people. But in reality, Balaam is simply relating what God was showing him, but he wasn't the one causing it at all. So God says to Balaam in Numbers chapter 22, verse 12, you shall not go with them, you shall not curse the people, excuse me, for they are blessed. Now, again, that's the only reason he would go with them. I'm going to pay you if you come and curse them. Don't go and don't curse them. So Balaam rose in the morning and said to the princes of Balak who had come, he says, go back to your land, for the Lord has refused to give me permission to go with you. Now, he didn't say, I can't curse them. He just says, God wouldn't let me go. Sorry. I really want to go. So he comes back and makes him an offer and says, verse 17, I will honor you greatly. Numbers 22, verse 17. Meaning, I will give you a whole bunch of money. I'll do whatever you want. And I will do, that's the next words. And I will do whatever you say to me. Whatever you say, whatever, name your price. Therefore, please come and curse this people for me. And so that's the deal. Excuse me. If you come, you're going to curse them. And that's what I'm going to pay you for, the cursing. I'm not going to pay you just to walk next to me and tell me how good my outfit looks. Come and curse them, and then I will pay you. So Balaam ends up going, and Balak thinks he's coming to curse them. And that's the deal. I will pay you if you curse them. Now, there's a slight misunderstanding, because Balaam says, well, I can only, in fact, in Numbers 23, verse 8, he says, how shall I curse whom God is not cursed, and how can I denounce whom the Lord is not denounced? I can only say what God tells me to say. But I'm going with you, so surely you should at least give me half or something. But the deal was, come and curse them, and then I'll pay you. So he goes with them. So there's a misunderstanding already. Maybe you've had this happen in your life. I'm going to pay you if you curse them, if you come with me and curse them. And he says, well, I'm here, so you got to pay me something. And Balak's thinking, no, not unless you curse them. And he keeps saying, well, how can I curse if God hasn't cursed them? Numbers chapter 23, verse 11. Balak says to Balaam, After he gives his first prophecy, he does not curse them, he blesses them. Balak says to him, "What have you done to me? I took you to curse my enemies. That's why you're here. I'm not going to pay you if you curse them." And he says, "Look, you've blessed them bountifully. Like, this is crazy." So he gives him try number two. Balaam should have said, "You know what? This is not going to work out because you want me to curse them, so there's no reason for me to go. You're not going to pay me." So there's a misunderstanding here. Prophecy number two. He gives him prophecy number two. Tries for a second time for the curse, but God says, "Here's what you got to say." And he blesses him instead of cursing them. Numbers chapter 23, verse 19 says, and he says, "God is not a man that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should repent. Has he said it? Will he not do it?" It's like God's not going to change. God told me to bless them. God's not going to suddenly curse them. He says, "Has he spoken, and will he not make it good? Behold, I have received the command to bless." He is blessed. I can't reverse it. So Balak responds in this way to Balaam and says, "Well, then don't curse them at all nor bless them at all. Just keep your mouth shut. You're making it terrible. You can't bless them. I mean, if you can't curse them, just hush." So Balaam answered and said to Balak, "I did not tell you, saying that all the Lord speaks that I must do? I told you I can only say what the Lord says." So here's what Balaam is thinking. I'm going to go with you and I'm going to say whatever God says, but surely you're still going to pay me, right? Balak is thinking, "I'm only going to pay you if you curse them." So, like, why is Balaam there? Because he wants money, but God's not going to let him curse them. Okay, try number three. Balaam says to Balak, build seven altars, prepare seven bulls and seven rams, and he's hoping maybe God will change his mind. And Balak did as Balaam said and offered a bull and a ram, and every seven will do it as though we can get God to change his mind. And sometimes that's what we think, we can get God to change his mind. Third time, it's the same prophecy. He prophesies all this wonderful stuff because God is not changing his mind. He's about to bless Israel. They're about to go in the promised land. He's going to bless them. That was the promise. If you go make it to the promised land, I will bless you. Numbers chapter 24, verse 1 says, "Now when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless him, he did not go as other times to seek to use sorcery." The other times, the first two times, he tried to use sorcery and do all these other things in order to get God to change. God wouldn't change. But he set his face toward the wilderness, and this time it says, "And Balaam raised his eyes, and he saw Israel encamped according to their tribes, and the Spirit of God came upon him." And he blessed again. He gives him this really phenomenal blessing. In fact, he says in verse 9, he bows down, he lies down like a lion, talking about Israel. He's like a lion, and as a lion, who shall rouse him? Like, you better not mess with him, because he's like a lion. And blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you. Now, this is a general principle that some people are using mistakenly today. But he's saying, you're blessed if you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. If you curse Israel, you'll be cursed. In general, that's true. The nations that attack Israel for no reason, they end up being cursed. The nations that bless Israel end up being blessed. And so that's just a general thing God's not going to take back. Unless Israel is messing up. If Israel is messing up, this no longer applies. And last week I read you several verses where God himself curses Israel. God himself, where they got in trouble. They are attacked by the Assyrians and all these other people that God sends to attack them because Israel's messing up. But nations who attack Israel for no reason are going to be in trouble. But if Israel's messing up, if Israel's doing wrong, then Israel lets himself vulnerable, like all of us in all of our lives, right? If we're doing what God tells us to do, then we're good. God says, "Don't cross the street right now. There's traffic." Okay, I won't cross the street. But we think, what does God know? I'm just going to cross this freeway, see what happens. Then bad things are going to happen to you because we're not listening to God. Okay, so Numbers chapter 24, verse 10. Because this is the third chance he's given them, and he's blessed them. It says, "Balak's anger was aroused against Balaam. He struck his hands together, and Balak said to Balaam, I called you to curse my enemies. And look, you have bountifully blessed them these three times. Now, therefore, flee to your place. Get out of here. Go home." I said I would greatly honor you. I said I would pay you, but in fact, the Lord has kept back your honor. I can't pay you. Balaam is mad because he's gone with him. He's done all this stuff, and this man is not going to bless him. Verse 12. So Balaam says to Balak in Numbers 24, did I not also speak to your messengers whom you sent, saying, if Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the words of the Lord. I set the price. I said, you're going to have to take me. I want a house full of silver and gold. I told the messengers, but I won't be able to say, I can't go beyond the word of the Lord. I can't not go beyond the word of the Lord to do good or bad of my own will. What the Lord says, that I must speak. So, okay, fine. I'm going to my people. Like he's mad. Like I told you the price. I will go with you, but I can only say what God said. So there's a misunderstanding. I want you to come and curse the people, then I'll pay you. And Balaam's saying, I'll go with you, but I'm only going to say what God says. But I still want the money. So Balak's like kicking him out. And he's saying, wait a minute, wait. I told you my price, a house full of silver and gold, but I said I would only pay what the Lord says. So, okay, indeed, I'm going to my people, but come. There's one thing I need to show you. I will advise you what this people is going to do to your people in the latter days. And this is a threat. So I'm going to tell you what God showed me of what these people are going to do to you. So sure, you can send me home with no money, but you need to know this. So he took up his oracle and he said, this is verse 15 of Numbers 24, the utterance of Balaam, the son of Beor, and the utterance of the man whose eyes are open, because the Spirit of God had come upon him, and so he could see the future. This is what's going to happen. It says, the utterance of him who hears the words of God and has the knowledge of the Most High. So I'm telling you what's going to happen. Who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down with eyes wide open. So he's describing a trance that he's seeing. He is awake. It's not a dream God gave him, because God tells us there's different ways he speaks to us. Sometimes in a dream. Sometimes he'll speak to the Spirit inside of us. Sometimes you have a vision. You are wide awake and God shows you something and you see it right in front of your eyes. That happened to me one time when I was in Germany and God showed me a vision. I was suddenly standing at my own father's funeral. I was standing there. The coffin was in front of me and my father had not passed yet. But I was there. I was at my church. I saw the whole thing. The choir that I was currently singing with was there behind me. The room I was in disappeared, and there I'm seeing my father's funeral. And sure enough, about a month later, when I got back to the United States, my father passed, and all of exactly like I'd seen in my vision happened. Okay, so he's saying, I fall down with eyes wide open. I am seeing this future. I'm not asleep. I'm seeing it in front of my face. So, verse 17, it says, I see him, but not now, meaning it's the future. I'm seeing Israel, but it's not now. It's in the future. I behold him, but it's not near. This is not going to happen soon. It's going to happen a while from now. He says, a star shall come out of Jacob, a scepter shall rise out of Israel. Now, people who read this verse out of context naturally would think it's talking about Jesus. A star shall come out of Jacob. Well, yeah, a star was over Bethlehem. A scepter shall rise out of Israel. Well, that's the Messiah coming. That's Jesus. He's going to be King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But here's the rest of it. It says, and he will batter the brow of Moab and destroy all the sons of Tumult. And this is, they're translating it tumult, but it's a different word here that describes a tribe that no longer was around in Jesus' time. Neither was Moab. Moab was not around during Jesus' time. This is talking about David. And this is 200 years from now. So 200 years from, not now, 200 years from the time that Balaam is giving this prophecy, David is going to rise as king, and he's going to do these things. In 2 Samuel chapter 8, verse 1, it says, and after this it came to pass that David attacked the Philistines and subdued them. David took Amnon from the hand of the Philistines. That's a god that he smashed. Then he defeated Moab. And that's what the prophecy says. He will batter the brow of Moab. He defeated Moab, forcing them down to the ground. He measured them off with a line, with 2 lines. He measured off those to be put to death. It's like he measured his coffin, right? And with one full line those to be kept alive. So some of you get to get in the coffin and die, and some of you I'll save alive. So the Moabites became David's servants and brought tribute. So he killed all the ones who rebelled, but the rest of Moab bowed their knee to David and became his servants. Here's the next thing that Balaam tells Balak. And Edom shall be a possession. Now these are the descendants of the tribe of Esau. Seir also, and that's the two different names of the descendants of Esau, Jacob's twin brother. Seir also, his enemy shall be a possession, while Israel does valiantly. Same chapters of 2 Samuel chapter 8. This is talking about David. He says, he also put, this is verse 14, he also put garrisons in Edom. Throughout all Edom, he put garrisons, and all the Edomites became David's servants. And the Lord preserved David wherever he went. So David is one that subdued Edom. Edom was already subdued by the time that Jesus came. Jesus did not do this to the Edomites. So a star shall rise out of Jacob, a scepter. That's not talking about Jesus. It's talking about David. Next thing that Balaam sees. And out of Jacob one shall have dominion and shall destroy the remains of the city. Then he looked on Amalek, and he took up his oracle and said, Amalek was first among nations. What does that mean? Amalek was the first ones that attacked Israel when they came out of Egypt. They were the first ones to attack Egypt. And all of these people who are being destroyed, Moab and all these pieces, these are tribes that are attacking Israel for no reason. Israel's doing nothing to them. Israel's simply coming back to the land that was promised them. And these nations tried to destroy them, and God wipes them out. And again, if you attack Israel for no reason, maybe you have a reason, but if you attack Israel just for no reason, try to destroy Israel, it never works for you unless Israel is messing up. So Amalek was first among nations to attack, but shall be last until he perishes. In 2 Samuel chapter 8, same chapter, verse 12, this is David. He said, from Syria, from Moab, from the people of Ammon, from the Philistines, from Amalek, from the spoil of Hadazer, the son of Rehob, the king of Zor. And it lists all the different people that David conquered once he became king. And that's the only time that Israel had total control of the land is when David was king, total control of Israel. After David, Israel lost control of Gaza Strip and the West Bank and these different places where the fighting is going on today. They only had control of that land while David was king. Israel's fighting for land that they have not had control of since the time of David. But David took over all of this land, and Israel owned all of it. So he's prophesying to Balak, saying, they're going to take over everything. They're going to take over you, you Moabites. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Verse 21, then he looked on the Kenites, and he took up his oracle and said, firm is your dwelling place. Now the Kenites, they didn't have that problem. He says, firm is your dwelling place, and your nest is set in the rock, like you're stable. Nevertheless, Cain shall be burned. When? He says, how long until Asher carries you away captive? That's the Asher is the Assyrians, the Assyrians, and it was not. It was another 500 years before that happened to them. So they were safe for 500 years because they made friends with Israel. But the Assyrians eventually came in 700 BC, 700 years before Christ, and they came and attacked. And the Canaanites were carried away with Israel because Israel messed up. Now, again, if Israel's messing up, then nations like Assyria and Babylon, they can come and mess them up for a time being because they're in sin. So God doesn't protect them while they're in sin, while they're in open rebellion like this. And he warns them and warns them and warns them, and they don't repent. And God says, okay, I've got to let consequences come on you. Then he took up his oracle, verse 23, and said, alas, who shall live when God does this? I mean, when God allows this to happen. So it's God doing it. How long till Asher carries you away captive? Who shall last when God does this? So it's God doing it. God sending the Assyrians. But ships shall come from the coast of Cyprus, that's Greece, and they shall afflict Asher and afflict Eber. So the Greeks showed up and they conquered under Alexander the Great. The Greeks showed up. He sent ships and they conquered the Assyrians and afflict Eber. Eber is where Abraham came from. That's his dad or his grandfather. So he's just saying the nation of Israel and the Assyrians will both be afflicted by the Greeks, and they were. and so shall Amalek until he perishes. So Balaam rose and he left and returned to his place. This is Numbers chapter 24, 25. After giving this scary prophecy to Moab and to Balak and saying, they're going to come and just ruin you. He says, so he rose and departed and returned to his place, and Balak also went his way. So you would think that's all that happened. That he gave him the scary, oh, you're not going to pay me? Well, let me tell you what's going to happen. And he gives him the scary prophecy. Here's what Israel's going to do for the next 500 years. It's not going to happen immediately, but they're going to just take over everybody. Now, hearing this, Balak would naturally be scared because it was the very thing he feared would happen. The Bible says that they rose and departed and went their way, but in the book of Revelation, Jesus tells what happened, this conversation that's not recorded in the book of Numbers between Balak and Balaam. Once Balaam heard this news, here's what he did. And interesting enough, Josephus is a Jewish historian that fills in a lot of the gaps in a lot of these stories. What he wrote is not in the Bible, but he was just a historian. And he also had recorded the same conversation. The Jews know that this happened. In the book of Revelation, Jesus is showing up and he's preaching to the 7 churches that existed at that time. And Israel's still a nation at this time, but this is 35 years after Jesus has been resurrected, and the gospel has started to spread to Europe and other places. And 7 major churches have been established, and Jesus is prophesying to them and warning them of destruction that might come upon them. At the same time, this destruction that's about to happen to Jerusalem in 70 AD. So he's warning this one particular church, this Pergamos church. And he says in Revelation 2:14, I have a few things against you, because you have there those who hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to put a stumbling block before the children of Israel. So Balaam says to Balak, according to Josephus, and obviously what happened, if you want to trap Israel, you got to get them to mess up. Because God's going to bless them. You can't just attack Israel. You've got to do something to get them to turn their backs on God, because if they're in sin, then God lifts his hand of protection and consequences happen to them. So he taught Balak to put a stumbling block before the children of Israel in 2 ways: to eat things sacrificed to idols, and to commit sexual immorality with their women priestesses who were worshiping their gods. So basically he's teaching them to serve other gods. You got to entice Israel, Balaam tells Balak, to worship your other gods, to worship Baal and all these other gods, to eat the food that's sacrificed to them, and to have sex with these temple priestesses, because that was the way that you got close to these gods in their minds. You want to get close to God? I'll be possessed by one of these gods. Let the spirit of Baal possess me, and then while we're having sex, then you'll be getting close to this god or goddess or whoever, right? So he taught them that. This is what Jesus says. 2 Peter confirms this, 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 15, not that Jesus needs confirmation. He says, but they have forsaken the right way and gone astray, following the way of Balaam, the son of Beor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness. So you've done the same thing, because until then, Balaam was doing the right thing, right? We've been telling the story for 5 weeks. Balaam just keeps saying whatever God says. He keeps saying whatever God says. It's like, well, what's the error of Balaam? Once God corrected him, he did everything God said. Well, no, he didn't. Because once he found out he was going to lose his money, once Balak says, get out of here, he says, well, let me tell you something. I'm going to go, but before I go, let me tell you what's going to happen to you. So they make a deal. I want the money. I cannot curse them, but I can tell you how to get them to curse themselves. And apparently he got his money. And Balak did exactly that, and he got his women to entice the Jews while they were waiting to go into the promised land, because they are parked right next to them. They're parked right next to the Moabites and the Midianites. They're parked right next to them, about to cross over into the promised land. We read about it in Numbers chapter 25. So just going right to the next verse. Numbers chapter 25, verse 1. It says, now Israel remained in Acacia Grove. So this is their holding place while they're about to go over into the promised land. And the people began to commit harlotry with the women of Moab. And they invited the people to the sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. So while they're waiting to go, although they've been in the wilderness for 40 years, they've been following God, this cloud by day and fire by night for 40 years. They're just about to go in. The women show up and entice the men to come and eat with their gods. It says they invite people to sacrifice to their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to them. So instead of fighting with them, instead of attacking them, let's go make friends with them. Come on, join with us. We're your friends. Don't run. We're your friends. Bow down to their gods. So Israel was joined to Baal of Peor, and the anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel. Like, I've been protecting you for 40 years, and you're just going to do this right before going to the promised land? Then the Lord said to Moses, take all the leaders of the people and hang the offenders before the Lord out in the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel. So there must be consequences. There must be a price paid. And God had warned them, if you sacrifice to other gods, if you start worshiping these other gods and doing all these other things, and he specifically said, and go after their women, and it's not just you're going after their women, but you're going after their temple priestesses in order to get close to their gods. I will punish you. So now I've got to punish you because I said I would, and I was telling someone the other day that I had a young lady my first year teaching at Bernard's who just never turned in any homework. And I said, I'm going to have to fail you if you've gotten low grades in all your tests because you've never done any homework. So you have no idea when I give a test, what the test on. Please do this homework. So because I'm going to fail you. I really am going to fail you unless you've turned in zero homework. Please, if you turn in this homework, I'll give you like 5 weeks. And so at least you get a D and you can pass the class with a D, but I'm going to fail you. I'm telling you what I'm going to do. She would come in every day and wipe my desk and clean my chalkboard. I said, this is so wonderful, but you're going to fail unless you're in the homework because I don't teach home economics. So it doesn't matter that you wash my desk for me and that's so sweet of you, but please turn in your homework. Nope, didn't do it. So when the report card came, I had to give her a fail. I had to do what I said. That would not be fair to everybody else. I have to get to my word. So God has to go out and hang these people. I threatened them, and now they did the exact opposite. And so you have to go out and hang these people. And that actually be a way to keep my fierce anger from just turning on everybody and wiping out 2 million people. The leaders who drag these people and had them do these things, punish those leaders. So, verse 5, Moses says to the judges of Israel, every one of you kill his men who were joined to the Baal of Peor. Go out and kill them. Because they're about to go into the promised land, and if they think they can just start worshiping other gods, how can I protect them in the promised land? They've got to know that I'm real and those gods are fake. Verse 6, and indeed, one of the children of Israel came and presented to his brethren a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. They are weeping and repenting and, oh no, this is terrible, we've sinned. And he presents to his brother, hey, here's another priestess, a Midianite woman. Let's have sex with her right in the temple of God. Now, when Phinehas, verse 7, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest saw it. So it's a Levite. This is Aaron's grandson. He arose from among the congregation. He took a javelin in his hand, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her body. So the plague was stopped among the children of Israel because the leaders, the people who were trying to lead them astray, and again, God always goes after the leaders first. And when the Bible says judgment begins at the house of God, he'll go after the house of God first before he'll go after people who don't know him. And he'll go after the leaders in the house of God before he goes after the congregation, because they're the ones leading people astray. So the plague was stopped among the children of Israel, and those who died in the plague were 24,000. So 24,000 people died. Out of 2 million, that's a very small percentage. That's 1%. But um, those sacrifices had to be made so the people go, oh, God is serious. Bad things happen when you go after him. Now they got this from Balaam. Balaam says to Balak, pay me, and I'll tell you the secret. You cannot attack Israel when they're obeying God. You'll lose. But just get them to mess up. Get them to turn their backs on God. Get them, and then they're vulnerable. And because God has to take his protection off of them. So he gave them the secret. Now, and that applies to today. If Israel is doing things that God tells them not to do, they are vulnerable. If Israel is doing what God tells them to do and other nations simply attack them for no reason, that nation will lose. So, but if Israel is messing up, then Israel makes themselves vulnerable. So to say without discernment, you must always bless Israel at all time. You have to back up Israel at all time. Well, you don't back them up if they're doing something wrong. But if they're doing something right, God will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse them, unless Israel's doing something wrong. And Balaam knew that. Get Israel to mess up. If Israel's doing wrong stuff, God won't protect them. And so we have to be careful that we don't just have a blanket rule of we follow Israel no matter what they do. And Israel goes around and chopping, and they would never do this, but Israel goes around chopping off the heads of babies. I'm making that. They would never do that. We can't say, nope, you can't say nothing wrong about Israel. Well, yes, you can when they're messing up. The Bible teaches that if Israel's messing up, God takes his hand away and allows punishment to come on them. So we just have to always be clear that there's not a blind allegiance to anybody. There's not a blind allegiance to your pastor. There's not a blind allegiance to anyone. If they're messing up, then you don't support them. Now, you don't attack them, you don't kill them or something like that, but we don't have blind allegiance to anybody. We always have to say, okay, Lord, what should I be doing in the situation? You tell me, should I be praying for them, praying against them? What should I be doing? Okay, so I'm going to stop there because now Israel is about to enter into the promised land. And there's these last few things that God has to go over with them, this checklist of things before they go in. So we're pausing here in Numbers chapter 25. And again, I thank you so much for those of you who take the time to listen to the lessons. On Wednesdays, I'm in the book of Luke. And interestingly enough, Luke is in the same position. Jesus is there, and Jesus is pronouncing judgment on Israel. Final judgment, though, because there were temporary judgments that came, but he's pronouncing final judgment on Israel that's going to leave them scattered for the next couple thousand years. And Jesus is warning them. And again, if Israel is messing up, if Israel's turning their back on God, like all others, God, like us, like anybody, God lifts his hand of protection as a way of teaching us, oh, you've gone astray. So like there's bumps in the roads when you're driving on the freeway that teaches you, oh, I'm drifting into the other lane. Your car. Oh, okay, thank you for that warning. So that the warning is there so that we'll straighten up and go back. Like your light beeps when you're backing up or something. Beep, beep, beep. Oh, I'm about to hit somebody. And what we're supposed to do is then straighten up. So God always gives warnings, always before the punishment comes, so that we will straighten up. And it's us up to listen to those warnings. And again, if we're listening to God, then God uses our lives to show. See, this is the life of a person who is following God and obeying God. See how God delivers them from tragedy. See how God blesses them in the midst of sorrow. See how God doesn't mean nothing bad ever happens to them, but see how God delivers that person or blesses that person. And so we become a light to other people. Like, wow, I want that kind of relationship that you have with God. And so God does that on purpose. He will bless us in whatever way that he sees fit, so that somebody else will see that and want that kind of relationship with God. But when we mess up, God will punish us just in the same way, so that people will see, oh, that's what happens when you turn your back on God. Thank you for that lesson. and we're glad that we have a God like that. Okay, so thank you again for spending your time with me today. And again, on Wednesdays, I'm teaching a Bible study. We're in the New Testament. And I would invite any of you to pay attention to that when you have the opportunity. All right, thanks so much. All right, bye-bye.